One. So welcome everybody to the IMAGINiT Clarity Online User Group. Today's presenters are Scott Burke, who is our AEC Cloud Services Program Manager, and Matt Mason, who is our Director of Software and Development here at IMAGINiT Technologies. So with that, I'm going to hand the floor over to you, Scott.
All right, thanks. So again, my name is Scott Burke. I'm the AEC Cloud Solutions Program Manager here at IMAGINiT, and I also work very closely with our Clarity team. And Matt, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, I'm Matt Mason. I run the software products development group with IMAGINiT, and we develop products like IMAGINiT Clarity, IMAGINiT Pulse, and then the various utilities for Revit and other Autodesk products. And that picture, gosh, I need an update because I look much younger in that in that picture.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that when I saw the photos. The only one I could find is like, ooh. Maybe I could put a younger one for myself too, because I still don't think I've ever had hair. But again, I just wanted to start with this. Of course, this is kind of our how many billions have been served, like at McDonald's here. But so far, we've saved our clients 600,000 hours in time because of Clarity, and we're still going strong there with an average of 284 hours per project. So that's quite a bit of savings here. You can imagine the money we put behind that. So, oops, I don't know why that went like that. I didn't mean to animate it. So these are the things we're going to be talking about today. First, we're going to have some Clarity setup tips, and then some other useful tips too, and things that might be useful to yourself here. So as you can see here, Matt, I just kind of put your initial on where I thought maybe you could talk about it, and I'll put mine just to be simple about it. But the first thing I want to talk about is project tagging here. So this is how we can tag our projects, automatically tag that, where we can see the tags and so on. So I'm going to jump right into Clarity here for that. I'm just going to log in. And again, go right. Actually, this is a good place to start here, actually. So I'm going to go over here to Settings. So the administrator will have to do a few things here when it comes to when you're creating projects, is that you want to make sure that you have tagging on here. So if I can find that setting here, where did that go? Here it is. So under the monitoring service, you want to turn on the true if you would like, when you add a project, for it to automatically tag the project as a Revit server project or a file-based project or a BIM 360 or C4R. Or you'd also like it to automatically tag your projects when you create them with the version of Revit that you're using, and also if you're in a multiple office environment, what office that particular project is kind of being hosted in. So these are just general preferences. You can always add these anytime manually, but this allows that process to happen automatically. So when you first create a project, these three things will automatically be tagged, and then you can add any additional custom tags that you want. So again, if you're not familiar with what the tags are, when we look at the projects here, you can see that there are a number of tags over on the left-hand side here. So in this case, because those options that I just showed you were on, when you create a project, it will automatically know to tag that project as a 2020 project or a Revit server project and so on. So you can see here, because it's automatically tagged the projects, I can see all my BIM 360 projects here, for instance. Or I can see all my 2020 projects that I have. So these are all the ones that were done in 2020, or all the ones that might have been done in my Bedford office here where I am, or in New Hampshire and so on here, or all my institutions or schools, things like that, or projects I use for training and such. So this allows me to go in and automatically tag those, but when I'm creating a project, and I'll just add project here, you also always have the option to manually add your own tags in here. So if I'm doing retail, I could type in retail and add that as a tag that I can organize my drawings with. So you always have the option to do this manually here. But again, if I pick a file-based project and pick a file, it will automatically add those other features in, whether it be file-based or the version of Revit and so on, or the office that I'm in. So those things can be tagged automatically. If we go back to the All Projects page, if you want to make it a little bit easier to see things here, you can select Manage Tags. And this is where you can take the tags you have and assign different colors to the version, the project type, the office, the custom tags. So custom tags would be the purple color here. Tags indicating what office you're in or what office the project is in would be red, and so on. This allows you to pick the different colors for these different categories here, just to make it a little bit easier to kind of see those here. And these tags are used in multiple places, anywhere where you want to search for projects and things like that. Wrong page there, sorry. So again, I can come in and in different areas like metrics here, I can say, okay, I'm a BIM manager in multiple offices. I only want to see the projects in a specific office. So I only want to see the projects in Bedford, or I only want to see our 2020 projects in the metric summary page here, because I want to make sure that our newer projects are doing well, and I can see one of them here already has issues in it. So this is just other places where you can utilize these tags here. Even on the home page of a project here, when you go into that project, if you choose, you can have those tags also listed here so you understand what tags are associated with your project here. So again, when you're editing the project, and you go into that project homepage where you can edit this homepage here, you'll notice that there's another command query in here, or another command, and right there called tags in brackets. You can see this. I'll zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see that. So that little command right here, that tags, will place the tags in your file in just the same way that the recently updated files down here shows exactly that on that cover page here, or on your home page when you edit that. So let me just go back to the project home. So by adding that tags command, it adds that just in the same way that the recently updated files command adds that list of recently updated files. And is there anywhere else where that can be used, Matt? I know there's a few others I know I'm forgetting.
Let's see. So I think there's a couple other screens in metrics. We'll talk a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about cross-project query in a little bit, and so we'll talk about it there. And that's.
Yeah, I'm not sure where else.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. It would show graphs. That was it. Thank you. Couldn't remember that. Yeah. So under graphs here, you can look at very specific metrics for all projects or a specific group of projects. So for instance, the tags that we created also show up here. So again, show me just the 2020 projects. Over the past 7 days, how has the file size changed? So this is for all 2020 projects, of which I just have that one that I'm actively working on. Or I could go again to file-based or BIM 360 projects instead. Over the past 7 days, have they changed at all? In this case, no. Or I could go, for instance, of a much longer time period, such as all time for that project. So here are my BIM 360 projects here. And you can see that's the Food Mart model here. Same here, same there. So these are the ones that are BIM 360 based.
And the scatter graphs.
Yeah.
The scatter graph can also be kind of interesting. To look at what's the distribution of particular issues you might find. Within projects. So like if you were looking at, number of warnings or something like that.
Oh, I see.
That might be interesting to look at. Like how does your how do your BIM 360 projects compare to your your file-based projects with number of warnings or that sort of thing. So you can pick and choose which projects to include in this scatter graph sort of view. So.
Right, I see what you're saying. Yep.
Sadly, we Scott works on his projects a little bit in this Revit server, but not as much as
a real world project.
So, we don't have quite as much Revit
data here to really look at
Revit metric data, but yeah.
And some of this too is because some of those files I have, that was an earlier version, so they don't track warnings. That was 19 and above only, correct?
That's correct. 18 and higher.
18 and above. Okay, yeah.
Revit 2018 is when we got access to that. So.
I see.
All right. So that's, I think, our first item on our tips and tricks for this particular user group.
So the next part was adding projects in batch.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'll take over control on this one.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know if I need to stop or if you just take control. Maybe to stop. I'll stop sharing, and then you should be able to share now. There you go. Yep. You have control.
All right. So, one of the things that we wanted to point out is somewhat of a hidden feature within Clarity because it's buried not on the Clarity web page, but it's actually in the Clarity server itself. And I lost my connection to the server and remote desktop. It should be back up in a second. All right. We're on Plan B, though. We are going to go find it. So our Clarity project utility is buried down within the server, Program Files, IMAGINiT Technologies, and Tools. And we have the project utility folder. And the purpose of this thing is to help you both set up new projects as well as do batch tagging and a couple other sort of project utilities that we put into here. So if I log in, and I'm going to sign in as clarity@ran.com for simplicity. So this will show you first what all your projects are in your current Clarity server, but then you'll have the ability, I hope you'll have the ability, to go in and add them in a batch mode. This looks like this is not.
It looks like it's retrieving projects. Oh, there.
No, but it's had some kind of problem with it. Let me let that go. Okay, here we are. All right. So this is back to my functioning one. Maybe. Mouse works. So inside of.
Oops.
All right. This will definitely be a keeper in terms of recordings of Clarity demos.
Yeah, we see the page now, at least, the add project.
We can see it. Fundamentally, what you do with the project utility is you go in and say, I want to add file-based projects. And if you had 100 projects, like you want to add your old projects in order to to run them through metrics or that kind of thing, rather than adding them one by one through the Clarity user interface, it's possible to come into this utility and say, I want to add all of these projects. And we support both Revit server projects as well as file-based projects. That's the only project types that we support adding through this mechanism. But more or less what you can do is you can say, point me at the folder that contains all of these projects, and it will show you this window, which doesn't access anything in this remote desktop session. Seems to be dead. But how about reconnecting the server? But yeah, so once we've done that, it shows you all of the presuming that you've got a subfolder for each of your projects, we will go in and basically let you just check a box next to each folder and effectively say, make a project out of this, make a project out of that, make a project out of that, and let's see, hey, look at that, we're alive. All right. So yes, so showing you what it looks like for real file-based projects. Go in and say, give me the projects that are in the Clarity Beta temp folder, and then you can go in and look at what's in each of these folders. So that's something that contains a bunch of Revit files. We'll say, make a project out of this. Make a project out of this. That sort of thing, and use this project as our template that we're going to copy everything from in terms of tasks and that kind of thing. I'm not going to fire it off because I just kind of pick those things at random, but more or less you can go in, you can just pick those, and it will set up your projects based on that. I think you can go in and say, I know that the folder name is this, but make my Clarity project name something slightly different. So we do have that ability. Also within this project utility, if you do have situations where you've added a bunch of projects but you didn't really tag them the way that you wanted, We do have the tag manager, where you can go in and pick a particular tag, like Boston office, and then you can go in, or maybe that's a bad example. Maybe it's more like for different sectors that you work in or markets, and you can go in and check the box next to all of these projects that you'd like to set up afterwards with these tags. So just click the update tags, and you're ready to go. So that's the two things that the Clarity project utility does. And we also have some ability to batch add external models. If you're familiar with that concept, generally Clarity will add, when you add a project, you're looking at all the Revit files that are underneath that folder. But if you ever have a situation where there are relevant Revit files that don't live in the same location as your project's location, they live elsewhere, but you'd like to sort of bundle them in to this project, that's what an external model does. You can actually add this through the user interface, but it's a little tedious if you've got a ton of them. So adding external models to a given project, you can select it and say external models, and then it will just paste in the full path to the models in that place. So see, there's an example of a project with an external model. It's a C4R project, but we've also linked in this file. And this file will show up for the purposes of tasks, for the purposes of metrics, that kind of thing. So yeah, so that's the nickel tour, although slightly abbreviated, of the Clarity project utility.
All right.
Scott, where do we go next?
I will take control here, and then I will present, if I can move that over. There we go. All right. Yeah, I think you just need to stop presenting. There we go.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. And I will present now. Get back into our view here, back to the PowerPoint. Let's tab over to the right one. There we go. Let's get back into here. Oops. So the next part here, of course, is some other useful tips. So these are kind of some Clarity project setup things that we've done here for setting up projects. And then the first tip here I want to talk about is just the requesting of a rescan. It's just easier to get to this. So, and there's a couple of places actually where, I don't know if that's exactly what we're talking about, but I do want to talk about here. So back inside of Clarity here. So if you go into a project, and maybe you've updated the versions, or you've done something, or you put a new file in there and hasn't seen it yet, then you notice that now request rescan, which kind of used to be buried kind of in files filters, is right here. So I can request rescan, and it's going to rescan all the files and find the version information and the type of information from it. So it's going to pick up any new files that you've added that maybe aren't showing here. It kind of forces the system to go in there and rescan that. And another thing that's also kind of useful here is when you are creating a new project. So let me go back out to all projects here. And this is important, especially when you're going to perhaps a BIM 360 project right here, is that our software automatically pulls your BIM 360 server maybe once every couple of hours looking for new projects. Well, say 10 minutes ago you just created a new BIM 360 project. You can come in here, and if it's not showing up, just hit refresh. And it'll then actively go to the BIM 360 site and see if there are any new projects and add those to the list. And then obviously then you could pick the project and create a new BIM 360 BIM 360 design based project here. So that's kind of another place where I kind of look at that as also a rescan, where it's rescanning the BIM 360 database, but that's a nice tool to have in there. So again, if you don't see your project in here, hit refresh, and odds are it'll show up pretty quickly right after that. So that's the request rescan, which again, sometimes you occasionally do that, and before it was a couple of clicks and you have to kind of dig in to get to it. Now it's right at that root there, so you can just get to it very quickly if you add any files you want them to immediately show up in the system there. Moving on.
Let me say,
if there's anything else.
Just add to that. I mean, just in general, we do try to scan in the background periodically and cache it, and we do that in part because we're using Forge to do that, and the way that we're using Forge, it's all going through our one Clarity application, and as we've become more and more popular with you folks, Autodesk starts getting a little snippy about how much Forge traffic that we're using. If we're checking every 30 seconds if there's a new model or that kind of thing across all of our customers, it starts adding up to a lot of traffic. And so we've tried to make it a little smarter. We've tried to scale back a little bit, and we've tried to try to be a better citizen of the ecosystem by not actively scanning quite as often, but as a result, you might get into a case where it would be good to, from this, if you don't see a project that is in there, or if you see a model in there that you notice, or coming in, that rescan or the refresh button to have us check it now and waiting until later.
Correct. Yeah, so it makes it on demand. That way you don't have to, maybe the rescan just happened, then you added a project and you don't want to wait 2 or 3 hours based on how often we have the scanning. You just hit the refresh button and instantly any project you've added would just show up. So that way it's on demand. You only use it when you need to, when you're adding a project. So that keeps everyone happy. We're not crazily over scanning the Forge platform on Autodesk, and you can get your projects right away if you've just added them. You don't have to wait for the rescan, and that's the main key there. All right. So moving on here, the next thing here is the task server upgrades and information about the task servers. So this is actually a nice new feature here, and the fact that it's much easier now to, for instance, update all your task servers. So as a manager, as an administrator, I can go to tasks here, and I can look at my task servers. And first of all, if they're down, they'll turn color, they'll turn red, whatever color, that in case there's an issue with that. These are currently running. If there's an update available, it would show up here there's an update available. So what you could do is first you pause all those task servers. That way they're not running any tasks. No one can start any. And then you can basically hit upgrade all. And what's different here is this is now a service that's running on the task server. So because it's a service that already has been authorized to make updates to the computer, it's not going to stop like it normally would do and ask, oh, you're an administrator, but you have to hit an OK button to allow it to make changes to that machine, which would stop that update, and you'd have to physically log on to every task server that you have and then update it at each task server, which is kind of a pain. So now what we've done is because that service has been pre-authorized, we don't run into those dialog boxes that come up asking, do you have permission to do this? And we'll just update them. So if I had in a larger office where I might have 20, 15, even just 10 task servers, even just 3, I hit upgrade all, and it will just automatically go and upgrade those task servers. And I don't have to do anything. So that really actually saves a lot of time. Because quite often with Clarity, if we find little issues or some enhancements, we might be releasing a patch or an update every 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes more, sometimes a little less. If we run into an issue, we want to make sure we get things fixed. And this way it allows you to keep these things upgraded really quickly. And you have all that information about that server right here and whether or not it's running and so on. If you pick it, you have all that data about that server. So you can see if there are any tasks in progress, everyone's completed ones, the task types that are supported here. So you can see all the ones that I've allowed to be supported on this particular server. And you can see that this is also a Windows task server. When we have another service running on a task server that here will allow the tasks that don't require the software to open Revit. So it can just run that task without opening Revit as a separate task than the ones that actually require a license of Revit to open and run. You can see this one, this is the regular task server, and it can automatically run all these different types of tasks. But you can see that we can also run the non-Revit based tasks, such as downloading from BIM 360, synchronizing the Dropbox, copying a file from somewhere, downloading projects from ProjectWise if you have the ProjectWise plugin at SharePoint. So this is what this tool is doing, is a separate service that doesn't require Revit to run. So these tasks can be run separately from the other ones that do require Revit. Thus,
and if I can jump in, Scott, for a second. So just to be clear on the whole pause and unpause thing, you know, what the pause will do is make it so that the task processing machine will not claim any more tasks. They won't even see that there's anything to be claimed, and it should let. So if you've got a situation where you'd like to do maintenance on that server or something, but like it's got a billion tasks to do, you know, that's what it does. But hitting pause will not pause a task that's already running. That's going to go to completion. It's basically saying you can finish what you're doing, but don't start anything new. And so when it's paused, it will eventually finish what it's doing and shut Revit back down and that kind of thing, which does clear the way for you to upgrade it.
Correct.
You know, also sending the upgrade message to individual task servers or to upgrade all is something that will it will wait. It will look and see, is there anything that's running currently, and it will wait, I think, up to an hour before it runs the upgrade. Wait for a time when nothing is running and it can jump in and do the work. So again, just trying to make it easier to deploy updates to the task servers without you necessarily needing to look for an easy time to do the upgrade or going around to each machine to click the button to run the upgrade. Just try to keep making it easier for you to keep your task servers up to date.
Or you could pause, say at 3 task servers, you could pause one of them because we also have to do some standard Windows maintenance or install some more software on it, right? This will prevent it from starting any new tasks as well. So that's not just for our updates, but for any maintenance that you need to do on that particular computer. So obviously these are tools that are going to help the managers of the system, IT or the BIM managers here when they need to do maintenance on those things. All right. So another thing here with the task, so in a situation, and this is kind of at least a scenario that I put forth with other people, maybe you have some task servers, and 2 of them are really powerful machines, but you might have an older machine that you've thrown in as a task server, but it's kind of slow, but it's okay for some of the tasks, right? So what you can do is on each task server, you can go to a section here where this is where you've connected to the host there. You can edit that. And right here, this is where you can actually say which tasks can run on this particular task server. So now because we have that Windows service here, you can see that this computer can run any of the Windows tasks. Maybe that's all you want this one for. Maybe this is a slower machine, so you don't want it to run any of the Revit tasks that require Revit. So you might turn all of those off and unselect that and let this machine just process file transfers. And then the other 2 servers, you would maybe turn off the Windows features, just let the other one do them all. And those ones would only be doing the actual, printing, publishing, and standard tasks that Clarity's done. So this is where you can determine for each task server which tasks you can run on that. And again, you could determine maybe certain tasks are really intensive, require the video card, a lot of power, and maybe that task only runs on a specific task server, and the rest can run on the other task servers. So this just allows you to kind of use your task servers efficiently to their best ability, to whatever their strengths or weaknesses are, based on the types of tasks that you're running through them. So again, that's pretty easy to do. You just go to that task server, edit your connection here, the local host to host server, and then you can just go into the task here and determine which task you want to go ahead and turn on or off for this specific task server. Is there anything else you want to add to that, or is that it, Matt?
No, I think you've covered it.
Good. Okay. All right. So I think, oops, sorry, a little too far there. So the next part, if you want to have you talk about just about the desktop connector and the sign-in, and why that's what that can do to help keeping you signed in.
Yeah, sure. On the desktop connector side, I wanted to talk about the fact that a lot of you I know use BIM 360 and or C4R, and we've generally had challenges in the past where you had to not just keep your server signed in with the OAuth settings on the server side, but inside of Revit, you had to keep Revit signed in. And Scott, I think your microphone has got rustling noises coming from. I'm going to mute you. I don't know if you can mute yourself for a second.
Yeah, I'll mute myself. I think it was rubbing on my arm. Sorry.
Yeah. So fundamentally, BIM 360, it has to be signed in inside of Revit, and that's something that historically has run only for 14 days. And then, you lost that sign-in, and someone had to come around to the machine and sign in manually again. And it was something that, we've tried to hack our way around. We've tried to, discuss it with Autodesk and haven't really gotten very far with it. I know that there's a Revit Idea Station out there that they've studiously ignored to let us sign in. In part, the challenge seems to be that no one can agree on who owns that problem at Autodesk. Is it the Revit team, or is it the authorization team, or whatever it may be? But so we do have an option right there that Scott's pointing to, the BIM 360 credentials. That, if you fill in, like I said, that's kind of our hack approach where we attempt to auto hotkey our way into that window and fill it in, but it's admittedly fragile in terms of how well that works. However, for a long time, our best guidance was set yourself a calendar reminder that once every 13 days to sign into the machine and just redo the sign in. However, the good news, and I guess I hesitate to even draw it to Autodesk's attention because I'm not sure that they know that this is true, but is that the recent versions of the BIM 360 desktop connector, which hopefully you all have access to in general, if you have the BIM 360 desktop connector installed on your task servers and you sign in there in that system, that appears to actually keep you signed in to BIM 360 forever for all of the Autodesk products. So far, that's what we're seeing. And so if there's anybody out there that's still sort of struggling with, I got to sign in every 14 days by hand, signing in once with the BIM 360 and desktop connector installed seems to resolve that problem. That seems to be good news. Like I said, Autodesk has not told me it's an official feature or anything like that. And I hesitate to tell them just so that they don't take it away. But yeah. So anyway, that's out there, and I wanted to make sure you guys knew about it.
Good.
All right.
Excellent.
A couple more, and then we'll take questions.
Yeah. So there was that last one, Clarity Viewer and Room Diagrams.
Yeah, and I saw that one, and actually it's funny because we had a different one on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Maybe could be wrong.
But I'll show you at least if I can take control, or if you can stop sharing,
sure.
Scott. I'll show you at least
let me just stop my
about.
Yeah. There we go.
So
you should be able to share now, or take the little ball and pull access to that, or I can do that. Let me just see where I cannot.
There you go.
Oh wait. Oh, there you go. You got it now.
Right.
Yeah, this takes a second sometimes. Good.
All right. Yeah. So I don't have this fully set up, but I'll talk about what this is talking about. So we have a viewer embedded within Clarity. It's either our own homegrown viewer, or it is or we use the BIM 360 viewer embedded within Clarity. And the one thing that we've done that we're really happy with is beyond the sort of basic viewable is that we have calculated the entry points to every room, just based on the doors and the size of the doors and where the center of the room is, and we basically built into our viewer a pre-built way of jumping to the entry point to every room. So you can, then look around the room and go from there. What this particular original thing that we had on our list is that there's a way, and actually I'm not positive how it works, so I'm not going to demonstrate it fully, but there's a way to put a link directly into this room data sheet that if you wanted to have a button or something like that that says show me the 3D, that it would link and drop you directly into the corresponding room here over on the viewer side. So that was multi-purpose space. Will drop us into multi-purpose space, and there we are. And you can explore from there. That's what it was talking about. I'm not fully set up to demonstrate it, but yeah, that's what it was talking about. What we did have on this calendar for this was actually the cross-project query.
Oh yes, sorry, that was my mistake. I think. Yeah.
A significant upgrade in Clarity 2020. It's still a feature that's a little bit in progress for us, but we've made some big steps, and I think it's worth mentioning that. So the idea is that you've probably all seen the way that we export data out into Clarity project databases, and then you can do reports and that kind of thing. But ultimately, all of those reports, if you had a bunch of projects and a bunch of project databases, all of those reports were really single project like this. So we wanted something that could query across all of the projects. And we did have one old way of doing it. It was a room query, but it effectively from that one page, it would go out and ask every project, give me your rooms, and it was kind of slow and inconsistent. And so we have a newer and better way to deal with this. Particularly, we were asked by AEC firms for things like room types and that kind of thing, and find me the families that were used, where was this family used across a bunch of different projects. And then we have some Clarity customers that are more like building owners who wanted to do asset and equipment search across buildings, which is fairly similar to finding families. And so I think we've accomplished both of those. And the way that we did it was by creating an index database. So in each one of these projects, we're collecting about 225 different tables of data, but our guess is that you don't care about all of them equally. And so the concept here is that within the index database, you tell us which of the tables that you care about across all projects, and we will build and keep fresh an index database that replicates that data into one place. And with that one place, you can build a cross-project report that looks at it, or you can even do things like connect Power BI and look at that one index database and have a fast way of accessing the data. So, yeah, that's the concept. And, I'll walk you through the setup of it. It does. To really get going and to do something meaningful, you do have to, in many cases, create or update an XML file to deal with more complicated kind of queries. So let me flip here and look back at. Oh, I got to sign in again. So here's my Clarity screen, and I'm going to go into Project Query on the left side here. And so as an administrator, your first step is to do that step that I mentioned, is tell us what you care about. So in this case, I've gone to setup and I have said, out of the 225 tables, these are the 6 or 7 that I care about across all my projects. And you can go in and add that based on looking at a list of projects, and then within a project, a list of tables. What you may find, or what you'll definitely find, is that for things like rooms or something like that, if you care about rooms, rooms is already in the list, I'm guessing, but because of the way our tables work and the way that project parameters and things work within Clarity, there may be custom parameters or shared parameters or that kind of thing, which are on the list that could be different between each project. And so as a result, we ask you to kind of pick and choose the parameters that you believe will exist in all the projects and and be relatively consistent between the projects. So that's why you go in and you go in and check the boxes for which of those fields that you care about, and then we will start building up an index that goes across every project, and I think once a day at least, it'll check to see has this project been exported recently, and if so, let me refresh the data into the index, or you can do it on demand. And then once you've done that, you've got a great data source, and from here you can start building up reports. So we do have a little bit of a user interface where you can go in and add a report and just pick from the list of tables, but we don't have a lot of the control over what fields you want and that kind of thing. And the reality is that we think that in a lot of cases for these cross-project reports, you really need to get in there and do a custom query. And so that's why, I mean, it does some basic things. You click on any of these reports and it says, okay, well, what projects are we going to query across? So you can pick individual things, you can pick everything, you can pick just the ones that are tagged. We mentioned tagging before, so like just the ones that are tagged as a Dallas office project or something like that. So lots of different things like that you can do. I'm going to run against everything and say select. So there's sort of a quick query across that. But let me look at something more interesting. We had a customer come to us, like I said, in the AEC, or I'm sorry, in the building owner side of things, that wanted to run a report against 800 buildings that they had on a campus, showing what sort of toilets that they had in each building. And so that's something where we went in and wrote a custom query, but you can say all my buildings or just the ones that are on this campus, or however you might want to set it up. And so this is the project in this case, and then the family that's associated and the quantity of that family that was used on that project. And from there, we can go in and say something like, we even have the ability to jump to the scalable vector graphic that we extract. So we could say, okay, well, show me. And this is the plumbing fixtures in question within level 1 and level 2 of that building. So some ability to do some graphic stuff, but generally, just more complex kind of reporting. You can hit export here. You can see it's 15 pages worth. You can hit export and get it all into Excel, or whatever you want to do. And similarly, we even have the ability to do a query where you can prompt for something up front. So if I wanted to search this way and say, this kind of family name across all the projects, go. We can find which projects are using it. This also has the ability to do all the grouping kinds of options and that kind of thing as well. So how many are in each project and what categories and that kind of thing. So that's the concept behind the cross-project query. Like I said, it is something where behind the scenes in your project query folder, there's an XML file. It looks something like this when you've gone in and customized it. Where, in this case, this is the family search one that we did. So someone wrote an actual SQL statement that is how we got exactly what we wanted, and then was able to to go in and say, hey, and pop up the additional information of asking for the family name to search for. So if you've got a little bit of SQL knowledge, it's within your capability to do this kind of stuff. But we're also happy to help you get going with it. So that is the cross-project query.
All right. Well, thanks, Matt.
So with all that.
Yeah. So I want to open up the Q&A. So if you go to the question and answer panel, and there's already some questions in there that we'll go through. But if you have any other questions, please add them. But I'll read them out loud, Matt. That way we can both comment here. So let's see. Let's start with the first one. Work our way down. So okay. The question here is: have you been having any issues with Desktop Connector? When I have a pending action, it can stall a task server. It can sometimes lose connection to BIM 360. And just wondering if there's a fix for that. Can't open the folder. There are reboots required. Well,
I don't think.
Yeah.
I believe that's Bruce, and I believe that we are looking into your scenario. But I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in if they've seen it. But I'm not aware of anybody else seeing it outside of your support ticket you have open with us,
Mm-hmm.
Bruce. If anybody else wants to raise their hand and say there's an issue, there's a little hand raise button on the WebEx screen.
Right.
Yeah.
We're just answer. Just put the question. Yeah.
But yeah, if anybody else wants to raise their hand.
All right. So another question. Yeah. So if we get any answers there, we'll certainly repeat them. I personally have not run into that, other than making sure you have the latest update of the connector, and Autodesk is updating that frequently. I think there was one maybe last week, but I'm not positive. Let's see, another question here. We just got our second and third task servers set up. Do we need to have separate BIM 360 accounts created for each task server? And the answer to that is no. You only need one BIM 360 account that you're signing in on the server. You can have more than one on the server itself if you need to access different hubs that different people have access to. But really, the best thing to do is to have in there an account, use someone's administrator account that would have access to any project. That's all. You only need that one account. You do not need to dedicate a BIM 360 license to it. So any administrator's account credentials will do, right, Matt?
I don't even know that it needs to be administrator. I know that there's an open question on that in support right now, but and I think depending on whether you're talking about your own hub versus other people's hub that you're connecting to. So it's really just any credentials. We're going to be accessing the list of hubs and projects and files that user is able to see. So however you like to manage and control that.
Right. So you can either do it by kind of restricted ways where you pick a certain user on this project who has this access and another user on another project that has different access. You can do that too. But I think generally you typically would be good to assign it to someone at least on your own personal hub that person has access to any project. That way you can just create them. But that's really going to be up to each firm about that.
Yeah. Or alternatively, you can just always add that user if you want to be using it with Clarity.
Right, exactly. So let's see. Another question here. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Nick Bauer asked about something he had submitted to the Help Race site. Also, if you're not on the Help Race site, I very much recommend that that you sign up. IMAGINiT.helprace.com is our site for tracking suggestions and letting you vote up other people's suggestions, so that we keep a little bit more transparent, enhancement process. And we are sort of right now this month in the process of planning out our fall release. So this is a great time to get on there to put your ideas in place, and also to vote up ideas so that we can see that there's more than just one person who wants them. But in some cases, we do see things that are just like, oh yeah, that's obvious. We should definitely just take care of that. So Nick's question that he put on yesterday or the day before was just, hey, it'd be nice if we could sort on the main project screen on project number and not just project name or last activity. And we said, that's obvious. We'd missed that. And so I think we've actually put that into a Clarity 2020 build that will be out next week. So sometimes even in the middle of the release, we can be persuaded to implement, good ideas and give you something that would be useful. So Nick, that's look for that, probably next week.
Good. And he had another question there about, whether or not we want to when do we want to have, multiple instances set inside the task server itself, where it can run multiple instances of Revit. And to me, if you have an incredibly powerful machine, possibly, right? Is that really what's going on there, or what is that?
Yeah. Ultimately, that's if you feel like your machine is hefty enough that that you can take two big projects and have 2 copies of Revit running at once, or 3 copies of Revit running at once. Where I see it most often is on firms where they've got some kind of VDI infrastructure in place, where they've got some big server where multiple people usually are signed in during the day and and firing up, and so you might have 20 or 30 people running Revit, like a Hive or one of those sort of big time machines. Those machines are certainly big enough, and especially overnight, to run tons and tons of Revit jobs. And so we've had people setting that number up to 10 or 20 on their task server if they'd like to try to have it launch multiple Revits in a single session. There are limitations on it. We can only generally be doing one print to one PDF driver at a time, and so only one PDF task can be running with, say, Clarity PDF. We do have a mechanism to say, hey, launch one to use Clarity PDF and the next one to use Bluebeam or something like that. So we do have that mechanism, in place, so that if you've got the hardware, then we will do our best to make use of it.
Okay, so any other questions before we sign off? We want to make sure we get to anyone there. Anything you want to ask, suggestions, anything? Okay, so I don't see anything else coming through at the moment. So I guess I think we're good, unless there.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the one thing I want to tease for next round is that the next user group that we do, which I think is going to be in September, will be around Power BI and how do you connect Power BI and things like that into the Clarity data that we're extracting. So it's a ongoing topic of interest. We might be putting stuff out, putting out YouTube or other content in the meantime, but we will be doing it step by step to make people more comfortable with the whole concept in the next user group meeting.
Great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and post this recording onto our YouTube channel. For those of you who are not sure how to get there, you can either find the link on our website or it's just IMAGINiT Technologies. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
All right.
You too. Thank you very much.